Well, Smithsonian Magazine had an interesting article about the modern doggy bag. As we know, during World War II, there were food shortages, and pet owners were encouraged to take home their scraps to feed their dogs. A little internet search even shows a picture of a bag with some happy pups and the words, oh where have my leftovers gone? Oh where can they be? If you've had all you can possibly eat, please bring home the rest to me. Some bags even had the term bones for Bowser on them. Now you might imagine that some people actually had the audacity to ask for a doggy bag, and they didn't have a dog. They were taking the leftovers home for themselves. Now, that practice got out of hand, according to etiquette experts, who were quick to offer correction that the bags should be restricted to their original intention. How times have changed. I love restaurant leftovers, don't you? In fact, I expect to take a portion of my meal home and enjoy it later. Leftovers and doggy bags, well, they're a part of our culture, particularly with portion sizes as they are today. And we take that experience with us as we read the story from Matthew today. Now, this story is obviously very important to the gospel writers and to the earliest communities of Jesus' followers. It's included in all four Gospels. And while the detail about the leftovers is pretty interesting, we have to note that these leftovers are not just half a steak and some mashed potatoes. These leftovers are even more scandalous than any etiquette expert could ever imagine. Take a look with me at this story and what's really happening. We hear that Jesus has retreated after some news. That's where the lectionary picks up this week. And maybe you know what the news was, that John the Baptist had been executed, ordered by Herod. And if we look back a little, we see that John, hearing from prison what Jesus was doing, had sent questions to Jesus' disciples for Jesus to answer. And Jesus spoke of their ministry of healing and of restoration and of doing justice. Jesus answered, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight. The lame walk. Those with skin diseases are cleansed. The deaf hear. The dead are raised. And the poor have good news brought to them. And blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me." And after that message that he sends back to John, Jesus goes on. We are told that he talks about John with the crowds, what a life-altering prophet he is. And the reality that it was dangerous to talk about doing justice, and even more so to do it. Josephus, in his writings, spoke of the political need to get rid of John because of his growing popularity. And when it happened, Jesus must have known that he was likely next. So maybe he is retreating both to grieve and to hide out, to become invisible for a little bit. Perhaps he wanted things to cool down a little bit in his area. Perhaps he knew what was about to happen. But we heard in the story that he can't even do that. The crowds follow, and they are desperate. They are suffering. They are hungry, and they know about Jesus' ministry. They show up because they know that this is the opportunity to have their needs met, and even more, because that is what Jesus is all about. He is in the throes of his ministry. That isn't just talk. It's action too. And it seems to me in this story, he is inviting the disciples to embrace the power that they have to be part of solutions. To look around the world and see problems and not just think they can't do anything about it, but to be part of that healing ministry. And to be clear, the people in the crowd have found themselves in circumstances because of, as Reverend Matt Skinner's words, because of neglectful and exploitative leaders. Lest we think of this story as a sweet scene of people sharing, or even the miracle that we see, Skinner reminds us of the real and deep scandal of it, with a little insight into societal realities. Skinner says that localized food shortages were common within the Roman Empire, and officials knew the political value of grain giveaways and circulating propaganda that trumpeted Rome's ability to feed its people. Someone who's able to feed the masses in a desolate place can give hope to the masses who reside in the empire's periphery. And friends, hope can be a dangerous and even threatening thing to those trying to keep people down. Because if they have hope, that can lead to rebellion, to overthrowing those in power. So in this extravagant meal in the desert, it's much more than just a brunch on a hillside. And the fact that they had basket after basket left over is an even greater threat, because there's enough for all, and there's enough to take some home so that they won't be starving tomorrow or even the next day or the next day. It is an event that furthers the leadership's desire to eliminate Jesus, just like they did John. And so instead of hiding, Jesus boldly laughs in the faces of the oppressors and calls the disciples into it too. "Give them something to eat," he cries out. It's as if he's saying, "Go ahead, let those in power think they actually have power, but we have the real power, the power that isn't of this world, but that is so simple." Friends, look around our world, our city, our neighborhood, and look at how many people are hungry, how many people are unhoused, how many people are sick and unable to do anything about it. That is where Jesus invites us and calls us and actually demands that we think bigger and that we actually believe that we are a part of it. Because the truth is, we do have an abundance if we would only believe that we do. And I think that, my friends, is where we get hung up sometimes, thinking that we don't have enough or that we aren't enough. I read a great story this week told by Amy Frickholm about the food pantry that they run in their church. And she tells a story of one time receiving 100 gallons of ice cream. A freezer at a grocery store broke, and so they had to do something with it. And so they sent it to the church, and anxiety ensued, as you might imagine. And so they weren't sure what to do. They talked about it, and finally, she tells this great story of standing on a stool and saying to the assembled crowd of people who wanted ice cream, probably a lot of the church members, but others as well, and she said, "Please take all of the ice cream that you want and none that you don't want. There's no way that I can do that calculation for you. Only you know if you're a half-gallon kind of person or a 10-gallon kind of person. But there is more than enough for everyone if we actually take what we want and leave what we don't want. Pay attention to others around you," she said, "and think about them as well." Of course, the story ends as you would imagine. The gathered participants, she says, looked at her like she was completely nuts. And then she went back her business, and in just a couple of hours, the ice cream was gone, and there were no complaints from anyone about the distribution, and there were no worries of having to store it. You know, friends, we look at what we have and we worry. We worry that either we don't have enough and that we have to hoard it, or that if we give away too much, we'll be left and we won't be able to help the next person that comes in the door. We think that we're not enough, that we don't have enough, that we aren't enough, and so we hoard and judge instead of inviting and claiming our power to actually do something. Friends, we have to trust that we have the ability to meet the needs of others, of those who hunger, physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. And to be honest, my friends, we have to lean into our hunger for those things as well, and trust that we're part of a community that can support us through all of those things. And then we have to be willing to engage in the ministry and the mission that Jesus calls us to. Give them something to eat, it says. Will we accept that call? And will we trust that what we have is what everyone who asks for help needs? Will we lean into the scandal of offering those in need exactly what we have? I think when we do, the world is a better place, and that's our good news for today and for every day. May it be so.